You're listening to another great podcast in the MyMac Podcasting Network.
News, views, security stories, technology, and all sorts of other related chit-chat that catches our attention. Welcome to the Essential Apple Podcast.
Welcome, listeners, to this edition of the Essential Apple Podcast. After the last few weeks where we've had, guests from the industry, as it were, and not talked about news, this week we have the effervescent Bart Busschots from Let's Talk Apple and, of course, Let's Talk Photography. Hello, Bart. How are you?
I am doing fine. I don't think I've ever been described as effervescent before. I'm impressed.
Well, it was that or perspicacious. Take your pick.
Ooh, I'd have to have gone for a dictionary for that one.
Well, there you go. And how are you then, Bart? Okay?
Yeah, I am absolutely grand. Just coming to the end of 2 weeks of vacation, unfortunately. Back to work tomorrow. That'll be a bit of a shock to the old system. But no, I'm good.
That's good. That's good. I am finally free of the bunged up nose syndrome, I'm glad to say.
Oh, good.
Yes,
Good.
That was very unpleasant. Well, I know
Yeah.
you know all about that sort of thing, so we won't go into the horrors, but I'm glad to be rid of it. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely.
Well, the stories that we've got this week, Bart, are kind of spread out over the last couple of weeks because we didn't really do any news over the last couple of weeks, and a lot of what was on the blogs and in the podcasts was, of course, look at the shiny new iPhones and all that. So I didn't want to rehash what everybody else is talking about, and I don't have any shiny new toys, so I can't really comment that much anyway. But
if you want a one-sentence review of the iPhone 11, amazing upgrade if you're coming from either an 8 or a 10. Not worth it if you're coming from a 10S. A lovely camera.
Yeah.
And the green rocks. There we go. That's my quick review.
I was going to say, for my my reading of the general zeitgeist is very much, if you're coming from an 8 or a 7 or maybe even a 10, probably worthwhile. If you're on anything later than that, if you're on a 10S or like me, the 10R, probably not worth unless if you're really into the cameras, maybe. But I'm not really into cameras, so it makes no difference to me.
Yeah, if you'd be prepared to pay a few $100 for a new camera, then fair enough, go for the new iPhone. But otherwise, I think, as an iPhone goes, it's a better camera, but it's a very similar iPhone.
Yes, exactly. Very much so. I mean, obviously, if you're into the cameras, if you were like me with the 10R, I've got the single camera. If you were really into it, I suppose you could go, well, if I go to the 11, I'll get the dual cameras. But like you say, you have to be interested in the cameras, really.
I think so.
Otherwise, I mean, obviously, there was the iPad. That did seem quite a nice piece of kit.
It looked like a nice, evolution rather than anything dramatic. I didn't get one of those. I don't have any first-hand experience.
No.
I did go from a Series 2 Apple Watch up to the new Series 5, which was a spectacular upgrade. But again, if you have a Series 4, really the only thing you're getting is the compass and the always-on screen.
Yeah.
And personally, the always-on screen is a nice to have. I'm not finding it game-changing. And the compass, nice to have. Yeah, sure. Makes maps and stuff a bit nicer for when you're walking. Okay, great. But, it's not, if you're on a 4, you'd want to be really into your watches to upgrade.
Yeah, again, from my reading of the sort of general consensus seems to be that if you've got a 4, maybe even if you've got a 3, you might want.
I would know if you've got a 3, you're on the smaller screen. So any move from a 2 or a 3, you're going to that amazing new screen.
The new screen, yeah. I guess there's that.
Like, that is huge, if you'll excuse the pun.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I'm still on the Series 0. I'm still meandering along in the slow lane. But then, I don't do all the fitness thing, and I don't do the health thing, and for what I use it for, it's still. I'd quite like maybe to get a Series 2, maybe a 3. I might be tempted by a 3 if.
Well, what's the cheapest they're selling at the moment? It is the 3, isn't it? They
The
discontinued
3.
the 4 and they're selling the 5 and the 3. And the 3 is great value for money then.
Yes, and at the moment I think they brought it down to starting from 199, which is the 38mm. I think
That's a very good price.
I think the 42mm is 229 in UK. We're pretty much on, dollar to the pound, as per usual. If towards the holiday season, as the Americans like to call it, Christmas time for some of us, I'm hoping maybe there might be some deals. If I could get it down to sort of 175 or less, I might be tempted to get one.
Sort of Black Friday-ish, you mean?
Yeah, something like that. Anything like that. We shall see. We shall see. It for me, it would be a nice to have rather than, I don't use my watch and go, oh, why am I using this clunky old watch? I don't.
Oh, well, then if it's not a pain point, fair enough. Whereas I was finding, like, I use my watch extremely heavily, and I was finding the sluggishness of the interface, and well, the battery was starting to wear out because my watch was Series 2. It was 3 years old. I use it very heavily, so it needed to be replaced, and the 5 is such an amazing upgrade from the Series 2.
I mean, don't get me wrong. When I watched the event, I saw the 5 and I thought, oh, look at that, always on, big shiny screen, much faster, all sorts of lovely things. But it's a luxury item for me. And at that sort of price,
it is a luxury. Yeah.
Yeah, well, at the sort of price they're asking, if for something which it would just be nice to have, you start to think, well, for that money, I could buy an iPad. I could buy the basic iPad for that much money, which would probably get a lot more use, rather than me going, look, I got a new watch. But there we are, each to their own. And if, like you say, if you use yours heavily, I'm sure that's a damn good investment. I certainly wouldn't knock anybody, but mine I use mostly for notifications and, the swift reply occasion. If somebody like my daughter sends me, I'll be round at 5 p.m. I can just tap, okay, and there we are. So
I send a lot of thumbs up.
Yeah, and I think all of the, I thought all the devices, as I did in my solo show, I thought it. Yes, you've always got the knockers. Oh, it's just incremental. Well, everything's pretty incremental.
What did you expect?
In a mature market, it's that, until somebody comes up with the next big thing, it's all going to be incremental.
Apparently it's attributed to Bill Gates, but I think one of the cleverest things I heard is that everyone always expects too much year by year and underestimates how things change decade by decade.
Yeah. That one I've heard similar. I can't remember who it was attributed to. It's probably attributed to a lot of people, but their version was futurologists underestimate the long term and overestimate the short term, and something like that. Anyway, it's there we go.
The same idea, right? We expect too much year to year, but when you actually stop and take stock after 5 or 10 years, you're like, holy wow, have we moved on?
Yeah, exactly. So it's a two sides of the same coin comment, I think. Well, what else? Apple Arcade went live. Have you played with the Apple Arcade?
I have not.
I waited until yesterday actually, and I signed up for the free trial. And so far I've played one game on my phone, which was called Spaceland, which is a sort of turn by turn RPG type thing where you have a little group of people who are exploring. I have to say, it seems like quite a nice game. Playing it on my phone, I couldn't read any of the dialogues because my eyes are shot. And I haven't had a chance to throw it up onto the Apple TV. But again, I think for me, probably not. There's a lot of platformers and that sort of thing. Probably not really my bag. But it looks like it could be good.
If I had kids, I think the fact that it's so cheap on a monthly basis and it's immediately family. It is always for the family. That is, I like that pricing model. So that would appeal to me if I had a family.
Yeah,
but I don't. So I don't.
I mean, the only person in my house who's likely to be more into it than I am would be my boy, who's nearly 11. We shall have a look. While we've got a month's trial, I might get him to have a go at some of them on the Apple TV, and if it appeals to him, I might consider it. If they're not really his sort of thing and he'd rather be on his PS4, then it'll be a no-no for me. But they seem like some quite nice games. It just depends what sort of games you like to some extent.
Well, it does, but also if you have younger kids, what's great about them is they're a genuinely safe place because there are no in-app purchases. There are none of this loot box shenanigans.
Yeah,
it is a place where kids can play and they will not rack up a credit card bill. You can just let them enjoy the games.
There's a lot to be said for it. There's no adverts, no interruptions. I did notice there's a section called Beginners, which I assume is games for younger children.
Or for people who aren't big into gaming.
Well, yes, indeed. There we go. So I'm undecided on that one. Undecided. I don't know. Several people have said, of course, can Apple keep topping it up with new content? Because 100 games sounds like a lot, but when you start breaking it down into puzzles, platformers, action games, mystery games, that doesn't make a lot of games in each category. And
right, but it's not Apple making the games as developers. So the real question is, will the developers make money? If the developers, basically the whole point of this was to provide a business model that didn't involve extorting people with all sorts of tricks and shenanigans. So if it works, if they can make money, then it will be successful.
Yep.
And if the business model doesn't hang together, it will fail.
Exactly. And I think what will possibly determine its longer term survival obviously is that, but also the developers need to be on board enough to keep adding new material, because people will get pretty bored with 100 games once the novelty's worn off. So I'm hoping that it works out. I really am.
We need a better business model to be viable. We need that to exist. So fingers crossed.
We do. There we go. On that note, Donny has started a Twitter account to do mini game reviews as he tests them, which is at Arcade Reviews. For anybody who's at A Arcade Reviews for Apple Arcade. Sorry, misread that. And I believe he's also going to do a dedicated website. If I can ask him for the URL for that, I'll stick it in the show notes. But he's going to do a dedicated website for his longer reviews. So the Twitter will give sort of first impressions as he plays games, and then he will write them up on his website. So there we go. If anybody's interested in finding out what the games are like, that might be worth a look. Now this was sort of crept onto the scene, I think, last week with not a great fanfare. But apparently Apple are now going to let you extend your iPhone warranty almost indefinitely. Apple
for as long as they're prepared to support the device, you can keep extending month by month, which is interesting. I mean, I guess it makes sense. If you buy an iPhone 10 and it has 2 years of Apple Care and the thing is going to be in support for 4 or 5 years, why not let you keep buying support?
So they've extended the option for iPhone, iPad, and Apple Watch into a monthly subscription, which seems fair if you want that. Not the Mac. Boo hoo. That said,
but they always.
I've never taken Apple Care on my Macs, because if they're going to break, they usually break in the first 2 years anyway.
But the thing is, they usually roll these things out product by product, so I don't assume that it means never. Just assume it means not yet.
Not yet. I'm not necessarily sure that I would feel the need to Apple Care my Mac forever, as it were.
Jesus, I do them all. Actually, I think it's an amazing peace of mind. The way I look at it is, I price my Macs in terms of 3 years life.
Right.
And so I get AppleCare, and then I'm guaranteed the 3 years of life. And I keep using them after that for as long as they stay good. But everything after that to me is a bonus. So I've budgeted to be able to afford a new one every 3 years. I've saved my money up on the assumption that I may need it when AppleCare runs out. I almost never do because they last me 5 years usually.
Yep.
But that thing gives me 2 years of free. So I always take the AppleCare.
Fair enough. There we go. So there you go. There's links to that if anybody wants to read about that. And this is also a kind of side story. Alistair, in the Slack room, says he has started a new blog at sittingduck.co.nz, Echoes, which is inspired by Scott Wills's WTF Weekly, where he's going to do a quick take and occasionally have a good old rant. There we go. Do you know Alistair?
I know Alistair very well. He's a Nosillacast away in Alison's very good community, and he has been on my podcast quite a few times. Really nice guy.
Yes, he is. Yes, he's been on. He came on this show. Obviously, the fact that he's in New Zealand sometimes makes the time zones a little interesting.
Yes. That is definitely true.
Yeah,
the weirder but the time is for me, the more likely Alistair is to say, yes, I can do that.
Yeah. I think when he came on my show, we organised it so that it was around the Christmas holidays, and we recorded it late on a Saturday night so that it would be Sunday morning for him. There you go.
That's usually actually how it goes. Yeah, I'm in Saturday, he's in Sunday, and I ask him how the future is, and we carry on.
Yeah, there we go. I don't know if have you got any other Apple stories per se? I don't think we have really, have we? Nothing that springs to mind.
Well, we have this new bug found in the firmware that's kind of a big deal.
Oh yes, I didn't put that in my notes. Oh yes, I didn't. No, tell everybody what that one's about then, Bart, and then we'll have a see what.
So we've had a bug has been found and released, an exploit in the read-only, very 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 low level firmware of all iPhones from the 10 back. So it doesn't include the 10s and it doesn't include the 11s, and I presume that also will include the 10. Which didn't exist in the era of the 10. But this low-level bug, which according to the who's released it, is unpatchable, and that seems plausible to me if it's down in the bootloader, which is so low level. What it basically means is that if you have physical access to a phone, you can run any OS on it you like, which is obviously a boon for jailbreakers, but a real danger for anyone who would be, perhaps a political dissident or something, or a freedom fighter, or maybe a high-level technical person traveling in a country where industrial espionage is a thing. It basically means that if you let your phone out of your sight, you can no longer ever trust it because it could have been rooted while it was out of your sight.
Right.
So if you're going through a checkpoint and they take your phone away for a minute, you now have no ability because secure boot can be bypassed on these older devices. So if you're a person of interest, be it for industrial espionage or for state actions or whatever, then you need to be using a newer phone than a 10.
Fair enough.
Everyone else gets a jailbreak, which is kind of nice.
If you're into
and
that.
Also, security researchers get really low-level access into the phone this way. So arguably, there's a weird twist here. So for high-value targets, this is really dangerous. But for everyone else, this may actually be a bonus because we'll still be vulnerable to the, physical access bug we're extremely unlikely to ever get hit by. But the security researcher will have more chance of finding more bugs that we are likely to get hit by that are possibly exploitable. So for us, it may actually be good news.
Yes.
Which is perverse, but
yes, it's one of those. I mean, to some extent, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it's not great, but then at the same time, I've always said if somebody's got physical access to your device, all bets are off anyway.
Yeah, but that shouldn't be the case with these mobile devices with the secure boot infrastructure and stuff. So the iPhone is better than that.
Yes,
normally.
And
now it isn't if it's a 10 or older.
Yeah, well. That's
so you're falling back on your PC, so it's now as insecure as your laptop.
Yeah, and as you say, I guess if you are a person of interest, then
Yeah, look, if I was someone who had valuable industrial secrets, state secrets, or was doing something that a government didn't like, this would concern me greatly. I'm not. It doesn't.
Yeah, that I was going to say. On the whole, I think most of those high value targets are probably on the latest models all of the time. Maybe less so political activists, but I guess knowing that it's out there, knowing that it's out there means you can protect yourself by simply, having to spend a few dollars and buy a new device if you feel you need to.
Or always using burner phones when you're linked to countries you're a bit unsure of. Basically, once you're forearmed is forewarned. So if you're a lawyer working on human rights stuff, you now know this is reality, so you can adjust your life accordingly.
Yes, it's all about threat models, as people who work on such things like to say. Yes, yeah.
And there is also the intriguing possibility that this is how Grey Key worked.
It is, of course, yes. Although at Dougie, who's been on the show before, who works in digital forensics, did tell us that the Grey Key, when Apple did the shut off, the lightning shut off, that actually did pretty much shut the whole Grey Key thing down. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I do remember that, yeah. But Grey Key, remember, keeps iterating as well. So there's new versions of it coming out, which claims to have new features and stuff. So
it's the endless, arms race or
cat and mouse game.
It's cat and mouse. One's ahead, then the other.
Yeah,
they just try and outdo each other forever. It's Tom and Jerry.
Yeah,
there we go.
Pretty much. Yeah, no funny mallets, but other than that, pretty much.
Yeah. There we go. Right. Tech Radar had a piece earlier in this week saying Windows 10 problems are ruining Microsoft's reputation and the damage cannot be underestimated. Of course, I
was busy underestimating it, I guess. I don't think there's much going on, but okay. Do enlighten me.
Well, basically, over the last 6 months or so, Windows 10 updates in particular have been plagued with bugs and problems, including one showstopper data deleting bug, which was very bad. Obviously, I think to some extent they're talking here about how the damage it's doing to it with IT type departments, because
maybe, but I don't see maybe.
Yeah,
only maybe because I work in IT. I'm supposed to be one of these people who's supposed to be all, this has ruined Microsoft's reputation, and I'm really struggling to get animated.
Yeah, well, as somebody said in the Slack room, it might have been Wayhan, can you ruin a reputation that is already terrible?
But I don't think that's fair.
No, I know. I mean, he was being facetious, but Windows
it was fair once, but it isn't fair today.
I think, I'll be honest. Windows 10, I've been using Windows 10 since it came out, and I think it's a fine OS, to be honest.
It is
possibly one of the best ones that Microsoft have put out.
Yes, exactly. And if you're still on Windows 8 or something, do yourself a bloody favor and join the modern world on 10. You will be better for it.
You will feel better. Yeah. I mean, 7 was okay. 8 was pretty horrible. 8.1, which I always say should really have been 8.5 at least, was not bad. 10, brings Windows into the modern world. Sure, they're saying there's bugs in updates and so on.
But
isn't there bugs in everything?
Well, there's bugs and everything, but to me, the rollout of the spring update addressed my concerns because they went really slow and steady and did a good job of that rollout. So to me, there was a brief blip. They took immediate action. They rectified their procedure to stop a recurrence. So rather than me having my confidence dashed, to me, it was the opposite effect. I was like, oh, there's a danger here. Aha, they're on it. I am the opposite of put off by that. I am encouraged by that. I don't agree. Basically, I think Tech Radar to me have a different view of reality to what I see, and I am supposedly one of the people who they think these opinions, and I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, what have they got here? At the start of September, long-standing minor bugs, including compatibility issues with Intel storage drivers, were fixed. The problem was that this cumulative update didn't just fix bugs, but it introduced a new one where Cortana caused high levels of CPU usage. How many people are actually using Cortana on their desktop? Really?
And if your CPU goes a bit high, it's not the end of the bloody world. Most people won't notice at all because most people's CPU are idle 99.9% of the time.
Yes.
There was no showstoppers here. Like this is, yes, there's bugs. There's always bugs.
Yes.
It's like, have you seen iOS 13?
Yeah, I've been on it since the start. Actually, maybe I don't push it very hard because, I haven't come across a lot of bugs, but then I don't do many things outside the kind of core of what you expect iOS 13 to do.
Yeah, at this stage, the catastrophic ones are gone. And what you're left with is just weird little, that shouldn't happen. And then you go out and you go in and again, and it's fine. So it's sort of like little gremlins rather than data destroying bugs. So yeah, I mean, I'm somewhat being facetious, but no, I don't agree.
No, I mean, the only one they mention in here which seemed like, an actual one there was a data deletion bug at some point, but then what OS
Well, even that, sorry, no, back up a sec. Even that one was an edge case of a flippin' edge case. It was, if you remapped your folders, so the way you have these standard folders in Windows, like your My Documents and your My Pictures and stuff, you can map those to different locations.
Right, yes. You can tunnel
if you map them to different locations and simultaneously continue to store data in the default locations, which are now not mapped to, then the data in the default location got overwritten because Microsoft assumed if you remapped it, you remapped it. Well, so basically, only idiots lost data, and there were almost none of those. I believe it was 10 reported cases in the whole planet, which completely blown out of all proportion by the media.
There we go then. There we go. Right, so that's there you go. I wasn't aware of that, but there you go. Yes, that's.
Who'd have thought? I keep finding myself on podcasts defending Microsoft. This is the second time in 3 days I've been doing it. This is weird.
Well, I wasn't necessarily saying I was just going by this article, but even then.
Well, no, I wasn't defending it from you. I'm just saying I am the one making the pro-Microsoft argument on a podcast.
And fair enough. And let's face it, I know it was in the beta, but we did have in the early betas some iCloud issues with iOS 13, and there was a problem where it would either delete or alternatively duplicate your data quite a lot, which we mentioned before on this podcast. Early on, you would find your iCloud filling up because it would be replicating your documents folder every time you logged in. Which was, nice. Not brilliant. It got fixed, but it was there we go. Pocket Casts. This is a bit strange. I never really quite figured this because Pocket Casts I think was £4.99. Quite a popular, podcast app.
I guess they're trying again. We're back to business models here, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, the reason it was weird is because they've made the app free, and then they said there's a subscription service, which I think was something minuscule, like $1 a month. It's a while since I read it, but they're not expecting. But they're not expecting. They're not expecting most people to take up the subscription because that has extra features that only people who are probably podcasters themselves would want to use.
Well, that's how my podcasting app, is it Overcast? Overcast has the same thing. Very few people need the Pro upgrade, but it is actually a better business model because if you've priced your upgrade in such a way that you only expect 10% of users to get it and you price it appropriately, then that means you have constant income instead of this really, really bursty income, and you've created that to be the appropriate size. So to me, this just seems like adjusting the business model to get away from the fact that only getting money when you make a whole brand new product is not actually a very good model for an app's life. And this seems to be a model that works well for people. I pay I think it might even be €9 a year I pay for the pro features in Overcast, but mainly that's just because I like the developer and I want to give him money. And the alternative is ads.
Yeah. I don't know. It just seemed to be that they were. I mean, obviously, I know a lot of people are very resistant to buying an app in the first place. What's it say here? Pocket Cast is making its podcast app free and launching a subscription service, which is 99 cents a month for cloud storage. The CEO, Owen Grover, imagines podcast creators will use the cloud storage to listen or watch a show before they publish it. And it lets people who like Pocket Casts use it for all of their media. Interesting.
Right, so it's not only for podcasters. It is. I'll grant you that as pro features go, it's an odd one.
Yeah. The one-time download fee was, he said, antiquated, so they have dropped it.
Yeah, that I agree with.
Yes.
But yeah, their choice of how to make it premium seems a bit unusual.
In fact, we predict only a very small percentage of power users will opt to take out Pocket Cast Plus. Good.
Well, so they're yeah, but that's what I'm saying. If they have budgeted in such a way that their finances work on an assumption of blah percentage of people taking them up, so if they've planned it for 1% or whatever, that will cover their costs, and this is all good.
It just
yeah. I'm not a user, so I guess I don't understand well enough to have a deeper opinion other than as a business model, Bristy bad, smooth good. This is much smoother than that Bristy. I need to invent features to be able to call it a 2.0, to be able to ask for money again. Everyone will go mad at me because iOS doesn't do great pricing.
Well, you're talking about to some extent, people who'd already bought Pocket Casts. Unsurprisingly, some people were up in arms. I've already given you $5 or whatever it was, and you're only offering me 3 years of Plus subscription for free. So I'm offended. So apparently everybody who's already paid has now been given a lifetime subscription to the Plus. It's like...
Hang on a sec. You're saying it's 99 cents a month. They've been given 36 months for an app that cost $5 or whatever.
Yeah. And
wow.
Some of them
are entitled.
Yes, exactly. And apparently Pocket Casts, as I read it, have said, "Oh, stop your whining, just have it for free forever then, and shut up." So...
It's probably cheaper to just swallow that cost.
Yeah. But there we go. Depends how many people would actually bother to take them up on it, isn't it? There we are. Oh dear, some people, eh? Some people. You might know a little bit more about this than me, Bart.
Go on.
Well, the Cloudflare. Cloudflare launched the 1111 DNS service.
Yes.
Which I do use. I also use the 9999 service, who I forget who that's from. It might be called 9999.
The Quad 9 is from a consortium that includes a whole bunch of big companies and governments, isn't it?
I'm not sure, but it offers a similar service to Cloudflare. I have those as my two DNS services because they are quicker than a lot of the others, and they're not Google's 8888.
Yes, which I mean, Google's 8888 is immensely fast.
Yes.
And immensely reliable, but that's not the same thing.
No.
Because they have a vested interest in knowing what you're up to, and DNS really says what you're at, because every time any app you use needs to translate a human-friendly domain name into an IP address, it needs to go to DNS. So if you just watch your DNS queries, every website you go to, every app you use that talks to the internet is going to leak its presence out through DNS queries. Even though you won't be able to see what it is you're doing on your banking website, you will be able to see that you looked up the DNS for your banking website, so you know that's where you bank.
Yes. Anyway, Cloudflare promised that they would have a Warp VPN, which is now apparently available to all users. Okay, now... Yeah. This was a little confusing. Even I was somewhat confused because there appears to be a free level and then a paid level. And
yes, because of course they're a for-profit company.
Yes. But there's Warp and Warp Plus Unlimited, and it says Warp Plus offers users up to 30% faster browsing. but it's using some sort of proprietary technology. I'll admit that I was a little bit lost trying to follow.
Right, but that's not a security feature we're going with there. So they're talking about routing technology. So that's just basically moving stuff across the internet faster. So that's not a privacy bonus, that's a speed bonus, because when you're routing traffic through a VPN, it physically has to travel further around the internet. So if they can do stuff to speed that up, then that will, so if you're using a VPN versus browsing directly, you get two hits. So there's encryption happening, which means that your device must be doing a bunch of math, and there's no way around that. Now, on modern devices, a lot of that math is actually handed off to physical parts of the chip that are designed to do the AES encryption and so forth. So that's not as big of a hit as it used to be. It's not the battery drain, it's not the CPU hog, because you have dedicated hardware for these algorithms, but it still has to be done. So you take a hit because every packet of information has to be encrypted and or decrypted, depending on whether it's coming or going. So you're always going to get that hit. But the other hit is, instead of your traffic leaving your phone and going straight to its destination, it leaves your phone through the encrypted tunnel, goes to the VPN provider, then from the VPN provider to the website you actually went to, from the website you actually went to, back to the VPN provider, from the VPN provider back to you. So that extra travel time is also going to slow down browsing on a VPN. So what Cloudflare are saying is, so they are a content delivery network. They have of presence physically scattered across the entire planet. So when you're using their VPN, you're not connecting to some far off server in California. You're going to be connecting somewhere very close to them. And then in theory, you're going back out onto the internet to get to the website you want to get to. So they could put you back out onto the internet somewhere close to where you are now, but from the other end of the encrypted tunnel, or they could route you through their massive infrastructure and put you back on the internet close to destination. And then you get to make use of all of their immense knowledge of how to make packets move efficiently across the internet, because that is literally their core business.
Exactly.
And so that's what the Warp Plus is all about. It's about getting your data faster. So not more secure, faster.
Yeah. So the weird thing is they appear to be calling it Warp VPN. So
Wait, but they offer a VPN. So it is a VPN. So the question is, do you want a normal speed VPN or a fast VPN?
So anyway, as a result of that, there is a Cloudflare explained, not a true VPN, but it will protect you on public Wi-Fi. And this is from Cloudflare themselves on their blog, with apparently an explanation, because the way they kind of put it out was somewhat confusing, because there are paid levels and not paid levels, and there you go. So if you're a bit confused, go to the Cloudflare blog, link in the show notes, and they will explain more clearly what's going on. Because I have to admit, although I understood what they were doing, the sort of VPN part of it seems to be somewhat confusing.
Their description is not very clear.
Nobody's quite clear, or didn't appear to be clear, as to whether the VPN part was paid for or part of the free level. There seems to be a usage cap as well, which if you pay, the unsurprisingly, your usage cap is removed.
I mean, the only way to make a viable VPN that isn't monetizing you by stealing on your privacy is to charge you for it.
Exactly.
Or to cap it.
Exactly. So there you go. Or in the case of Proton, if you have used their free level, it's not capped, but you're limited in the servers you can use, and you can only register one device.
Yeah, they have to basically limit you or charge you or steal your privacy or some or all of the above.
Yes, indeed. Which is
now, you see, a lot of confusion here comes about because they have a 1.1.1.1 app.
Yes.
And that app uses the VPN profiles in iOS to change your DNS server without actually enabling a VPN. And that's where the confusion often comes from.
Right.
So if all you're getting from Warp is the 1.1.1 app, then that definitely is not a VPN. And that, I think, is at the root of a lot of this confusion. That's just a way of getting iOS to use their DNS servers.
Right. There we are. And for what it's worth, 9 to 5 Mac say, while other VPNs slow down the internet, Warp incorporates all the work the team from NewMob has done to improve mobile internet performance. We built Warp around a UDP-based protocol, optimized for mobile internet, and we leveraged Cloudflare's massive global network, as you were saying, obviously as a content delivery service, allowing Warp to connect with servers within milliseconds of most of the world's internet's users.
Yep.
There we go. We test thousands of paths over the internet every second to find which have the best performance, so you skip past internet traffic jams. The same technology we use to make thousands of websites 30% faster on average. There we are.
Because they're hosting a lot of those websites anyway. They're providing the CDNs, so they're in a really good position to give very efficient access.
Yes, they are. The confusion, some of the confusion may simply have been from people's very poor reporting of it, because although I'm not sure that Cloudflare's original press release was particularly clear on what parts you got for free and what parts were paid for. There we go. Talking of VPNs,
Go on.
Firefox are testing a VPN, and you can try that out right now.
With a lot of caveats on that one.
Yes.
You have to be American, and you have to be logged into your Firefox account, and you have to be on a desktop, not a mobile device.
Yes, indeed. But there is the start. It is testing. So there we go. And Ghostery, friends of the show Ghostery, maker of the anti-tracking, extension, Ghostery or Ghostery Lite if you use Safari. They are going to launch a product called Ghostery Midnight, which will give you control of trackers at the device level. I've got a link here from Ghostery themselves. I have it from Ghostery that this will probably launch late October or early November. And they will be coming on the show to talk about it.
I look forward to that.
Yes, they are coming on the show to talk to us about it. I believe the 3rd of November. Anyway, that it will be shortly after it launches. That's what they've told me. So
that looks like. I mean, they only have a little bit up at the moment, but that looks like a very interesting app.
It does. I've got no more details than what's in the in that blog, other than they told me that it should launch by the end of October.
And again, we have another. Speaking of VPN, because this is also VPN-based technology.
It is, yes. Very
the
much.
VPN with a firewall, basically, a very, very, very clever firewall. I'm imagining this is not going to be available in iOS. I don't see how you could put this functionality into iOS.
No, it doesn't. I mean, there's no pictures of there is a picture here of a MacBook.
Of a Mac.
Yeah, or yes, of a Mac. So doesn't mention mobile at all. So not surprising. There we are. That is something coming, and they will be coming on the show to tell us all about it when it launches, which is nice. Look forward to that. And I think we're pretty much, coming to the end, really, Bart. Gruber, worth of chirps. Apparently, amongst all the other stuff Amazon announced at their event, celebrity voices are coming to Alexa, right? Just in case.
I think the best headline I saw on the Amazon event was, I think might have been Tidbits. It was Alexa, throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks.
Yes, that's right, because they seem to have announced an awful lot of stuff.
Including products that are never going to be real. They're just doing them to be able to say "me too." Like they're announcing, like the Ring, for example, the Loop they're calling it. They're announcing that being only available by invite only, and it appears to do basically nothing apart from that you touch your finger to talk to Alexa.
As I understand it, the Ring is designed to work in conjunction with the glasses. It is not specifically a standalone device. The glasses, which are not AR or anything else, they are a pair of frames into which you can put your own prescription lenses, or non-prescription, I suppose, if you're that keen. I was
going to say, if you don't have glasses, what choice have you got?
Yeah. The Ring, as I understood it, works in conjunction with the glasses, which have basically no more in them than little speakers with kind of funneled audio.
Yeah, not even bone conduction. I mean, they missed a trick there.
Well, the idea being that you touch the Ring and talk to Alexa, and the sound will be played back to you via the frames of the glasses. How
Yeah, I mean, some of
many
the other
people
stuff.
are going to be really taken with that, I do not know.
No, I mean, thinking back to what else, I'm sure I'm forgetting something. The version of the Dot that is a radio alarm clock for your bedside table, that genuinely looked nice.
Yes, that was about the only one that really caught my attention. A dot with an LED clock on the side.
Yeah, but nicely done. Like the time showed the fabric, it looked very nice. And then a tiny little portable one that you can just plug into any wall socket. So sort of, in a workshop or whatever, just plug it in anywhere you have power. That's kind of a nice form factor, like the Airport Extreme sort of form factor.
Right. So we talking what they calling that one? The micro dot?
I don't remember because there were so many names and so many things. You're asking me to remember the impossible.
Yeah, I've
here.
no idea. I've no idea. I didn't watch the event. I'll be.
Oh,
honest.
neither did I. We just talked about it on the big show on the British Tech Network,
Right.
and someone brought it along as their story, and it took half an hour because we went through them all.
Yeah, and there was a lot of spaghetti chucked at the wall. You are quite right.
God.
Anyway,
Yeah, the pet tracker might be interesting, I guess, if you have a pet. It'll give you an alert if your pet leaves a physical area, and there were cheaper cameras from Ring now that Amazon owned Ring. That seemed useful.
right. Anyway, apparently celebrity voices will be coming to Alexa. And as John Gruber says here, Samuel L. Jackson with an explicit option. Hell yes, sign me up.
Well, the explicit option sounds quirky in a fun sort of way, but I hope you can turn it off easy enough if you have, your parents over for dinner.
Yeah. Although I did buy my daughter, who is, over 16, but we did buy my daughter at her own request the Samuel L. Jackson Go the F to Bed bedtime story.
I mean, yes, it's not NSFW or NSF Kid, but
bedtime book, yes. And she also had it as an audio book, which is read.
Of course. I mean, if you're going to get it, that's how you want it.
Read by Samuel L. Jackson. Oh dear. And I think that's probably about it. Yeah, you won't see Tim Cook doing this on the stage. Jean-Louis Gasset. It was apparently 20 years since, 30 years since the Macintosh Portable.
Jesus.
Yeah, 89. The Macintosh Portable was released, and it was Jean-Louis Gasset who presented it on stage. And on YouTube, you can watch him do so. I always wanted a Macintosh Portable, I always did.
These are slightly before my time, I'm sorry to say.
Right, well, the Macintosh...
I was 9 years old.
Right.
Make you feel.
Yeah, I was probably about 18. No.
Yeah, they look like a was it the Commodore 64? That's sort of
yes. It for
design.
People who don't know, I mean, yeah, follow the link, look it up. It was never a huge success. Imagine something like a Commodore 64 or in fact, a portable electric typewriter of the period.
Yeah,
where the keyboard cover folds up, and that contains the screen. It had, I believe, a 10-inch monochrome active matrix display, which was
5 pixels by 4 pixels or something.
No, which was bigger than the SE and the SE30, which only had a 9-inch monochrome display.
He's pulling it apart on stage, showing like expansion boards and stuff.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He's actually disassembling. Like this is so different to modern Apple. It's
I always wanted a Macintosh
astonishing.
Portable. It weighed a phenomenal amount because a large amount of that back section is in fact a lead acid battery.
No, Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah, because of course we didn't have lithium ion.
Well,
Or not affordable lithium ion if it existed in a lab
or
somewhere.
NiCad or whatever.
Jesus.
This
is stunning.
It is. I always wanted
full-size hard drive.
Yeah, it was
a quote-unquote portable machine. My God.
In the phrase of the time, luggable. Now, you might laugh at it now, at it whatever it was, bloody £14 or whatever it weighs. But at the time, I had an SE30 and a bag to put it in, and I would lug that from place to place.
This is a great example of what we were talking about earlier. Like, you take an iPod Touch and you compare it to this contraption. And what you have with an iPod Touch is a device with probably at least 10 times the screen resolution, probably actually 100 times the pixel count.
Yep.
You have a device with hundreds, if not thousands, of times the computing power, perhaps tens or hundreds of thousands. In fact,
I would think so.
Many orders of magnitude.
Many orders of magnitude.
Wow. We have come so far in portable devices from this. This is a wonderful piece of history.
And I lusted after one of those, I can assure you. And
I would have too. These would have seemed like the future. This would have seemed like Star Trek.
It was an amazing piece of kit. It was quite expensive, and I never. I did one time see one a few years later at auction, in a office clearance, but I couldn't afford it even then. There you go. But if you want to, if you want to see the birth of portable computing devices, go watch it. It's a fascinating piece of history. There we are.
30 years ago on the 20th of September.
Yeah.
So a week ago, it was 30 years ago. That is a wonderful reminder of where we've come from. That's really cool.
There we are. Well, I think we've probably covered everything worth worrying about, Bart. So this is the bit where we wrap the show up. So this is a bit where I let you promote your, your bits and pieces. So take it away.
Bits and bobs. Well, okay, so the one thing to remember is bartb.ie, because I link everything from there, and it saves you spelling my surname, which is definitely a good idea. There's no point in me telling you my Twitter is bbusschots, because you'll never spell it, but bartb.ie, you have a chance. What I do want to plug, though, is actually I do podcasts, and your good self are often kind enough to accompany me on a tour through Apple News. So the really relevant show for this audience is Let's Talk Apple, and I intend the show to fill a niche that I didn't think it was being properly filled, which is it's a monthly show, and we're interested in the big picture, not the minutiae of what happens day to day or even week to week, but step back 12 times a year and examine the forest rather than the trees. And I have found that to be a very fun format to prepare shows for, because we're going to be talking about Apple's event, but we're going to have a different perspective on it because people have been using the devices that were announced. So it's not like your usual, I think this will be cool. It's like, no, this is how it's actually worked out. So that's sort of the idea behind the show, and I'd like to think it's worked well. I certainly enjoy doing it, so that's a metric.
Well, I always find it, a pleasure to be on and a pleasure to listen to, because I think you've hit that target very well. It's nice once a month to listen to the Let's Talk Apple, and as you say, take a 30,000 foot overview of Apple news.
Because stories tend to develop. They tend not to be little atoms. They tend to string together, and when you're able to stand back, you actually get a more nuanced view, because it's very easy to hear there's a terrible Apple vulnerability and then miss the next day's Mac OS X or whatever and never know how it ended.
Yeah.
Like the saga with the 13-year-old kid, that one ran over 3 weeks. On our show, we got to talk about the whole thing from soup to nuts in one go. So the fact that it ended well, that while Apple were too slow, they did eventually do the right thing and they changed their practices for the future. That was one story for us. Whereas if you're getting your news daily, it wasn't, and you could very easily miss out.
Very much so.
So yes, bartb.ie. That's there we go. That's my shirt. Sorry, that was a bit of a long plug, but anyway, bartb.ie.
No, that's fine. bartb.ie, or you can also find it, of course, at let's-talk.ie, I believe.
That is indeed for just the podcast. There's a photography one too that's also there, and the idea there is we don't talk about specific tech. We talk about the art and craft of photography. I don't care how you make pictures. I just want to help you make better ones.
Excellent. Well, there we go. I am on the Twitters as @Serenak, and that's SERENAK. I also have. We also have the @Essential Apple account, which I don't use very much, even though I should probably use it more. I should mention, because it occurred after the end of the show, but Tanya Vert from Beelight gifted us 4 copies of Amadine to give away.
Ooh.
That's their vector drawing application, which they recently released.
Wish I had the skills to use that.
It's actually a nice app. I was on the beta. I've got a copy of it. It's a really powerful vector drawing app without the complexity of something like Affinity Designer or, it's one step down. It's above the kind of doodly drawing things, so it's powerful enough to do some really, really good work, but it does not have the learning curve of something like Illustrator or Affinity Designer. Anyway, we have 4 licenses to give away, and in the usual manner, if you want to put your name in the hat to win a copy, email essentialapple@sudomail.com, and that's SUDO mail.com, and I will announce the winners in about 3 weeks' time. There you go. Give everybody a chance to get their name in the hat. Right, and also don't forget that if you are interested in photography, Mac Jim in our Slack room has started a family-friendly Flickr group for listeners to share their photos and talk about photography, because the dark room in the Slack is very popular. So if you're interested, head over to the Essential Apple Flickr link in the show notes and request an invitation from Jim. Don't worry if he doesn't get back to you immediately. He does have a life. And
I'm off. I'm going to join this. So I'm doing that as you talk.
And I think that's probably about it. As I say, thank you, as usual, to everybody who supports the show via the Patreon, via the Pinecast Tips Jar, by using the Amazon affiliate link. The big red button is on the website for that. And I think that's about it. So after Bart and I say goodbye, we shall go over to John Nemo in the hardware store. And I look forward to being with you again next time. So until then, goodbye.
Toodle pip.
With the arrival of new hardware, Nemo's hardware store is taking our show on the road. So any ambient noise you hear from the background is because we're outdoors. First product comes from talented, creative, premium people at 12 South. TWELVESOUTH. That's the name of the company, and also the website, 12south.com. We have an extraordinary case for the 11-inch iPad Pro, the new iPad Pro. It's called the Journal, JOURNAL. Color we received is cognac, sort of a medium brown, very attractive, all leather, sewn to exquisite perfection, with a big hole in the back for taking pictures using the camera. I'll describe it more in a second. Costs $100 in the U.S., and it begins its life with 2 zippers. You unzip it, and you see that your pad is fully contained inside. So it's not only a journal style or a book style of iPad case and cover, but when it's zipped up, it truly is a journal. There's a pocket on the left for your keyboard or any other slim accessories. You snap your iPad in, you're ready to go. There's even a place for your pencil. And it describes this in English, a 2-page journal for iPad Pro owner's guide. This is an iPad case with an owner's guide, and email address if you have any questions about using it for typing, sketching, display mode, storing and charging the pencil, and installing the pad in the journal. You just spent a fortune on your amazing 11-inch iPad Pro, and for $100, whatever is the currency in your country, you will get a case that will live at least as long as your iPad Pro. Journal by 12 South. Strongest Nemo hardware store recommendation. Check it out on their website from the links in our show notes at 12south.com, and you will see how impressive the journal for the iPad 11-inch Pro is. What a splendid case. For your new iPhone, the iPhone 11 series, or any of the previous iPhones, there's a company called Smartish, SMARTISH, smartish.com. And in around the $25 range, you will find a bunch of different cases for the new iPhone 11 series and also the previous phones. I've been recommending these cases for a long time. You can also buy your tempered glass screen protectors in a 2-pack. Pairs nicely with the 11 or the XR because the glass fronts are the same as the prior generation of the phones. So we have 3 cases that we received from Smartish.com. The Wallet Slayer Volume 1 and the Wallet Slayer Volume 2. different designs of putting your credit cards and bus passes with a kickstand and grippy sides and nice protection. 2 different variations on that. That's called the Wallet Slayer because you don't need to carry your wallet anymore. So that's Wallet Slayer Volume 1 and 2, and they each come in several different colors that you'll see and from the links in our show notes here at Essential Apple. And also the Kung Fu Grip, super grippy, protective with a slim fit. We got the color called Purple Rain, R-E-I-G-N. Ooh, that's a groaner. Good company from Austin, Texas. They have a sense of humor. They don't take themselves all that seriously, but they take their products very seriously. We also, for the 6.5-inch iPhone, have the Wallet Slayer Volume 1 in a floral pattern. So the new jumbo size iPhone Pro, Model 11, has its own case already with a humongous square hole in the back for that gigantic camera array that you are already familiar with. Reasonable prices, good color scheme, very good protection, and you can also purchase their tempered glass screen protectors that I will start using for myself and my students and clients as soon as somebody breaks their screen. Then you have one-handed texting selfie grip kickstand called the Prop Tart, P-R-O-P-T-A-R-T. So have a look at the Prop Tart for texting, selfie gripping, and kickstand, and the Kung Fu Grip and the Volume 1 and 2 of the Wallet Slayer in all different sizes for the new and the prior phones from smartish.com. So we're going to take our cases for a little stroll around the backyard here, and I'm sure our phones will be heavily protected with our Tough Sheet glass screen protector, and our iPad will be very elegant inside this gorgeous leather journal from 12 South. Back next week.
You've been listening to the Essential Apple podcast, and I'd like to say if you enjoy the show and would like to support us, feel free to go over to the website essentialapple.com and you will find links to both Patreon and the Pinecast Tips Jar, where you can make a donation towards the costs of the show, or even if you're really keen, you could set up a recurring payment. And thank you very, very much to all the people who already do support us. We really do appreciate you very much indeed. This show is, of course, part of the My Mac podcasting network, where you can find a variety of other shows like the My Mac podcast with Guy and Gaz, the G-Men, Tech Fan with Tim and David, the Nintendo Club podcast, the geekiest show ever, the Three Geeky Ladies, Bart Busschots and his wonderful Let's Talk Apple, and possibly some more that I forgot. So why not go over to mymac.com, take a look at the available podcasts, and take a listen.
Hi, I'm Bart Busschots, host of the Let's Talk Apple podcast. Every month I gather together a panel of Apple followers and we digest the month's Apple news. Our aim is to step back and take a 40,000-foot view of all things Apple. We're the perfect complement to the many great daily news shows out there. Listen and subscribe at www.lets-talk.ie.
Listening to the Essential Apple podcast. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you next time.